Okay, thanks, Camilla. Thanks. Adrian was kind enough to do my self-promotion for me, which is great. I've been curating a great bit of intellectual tag wrestling on the blog between Chris and Stefan Durkin from DFID and Ros Iben from IDS and Chris Roach of ex-Oxfam, XFAM as we call them. And I'm sorry to say that Chris and Stefan won on points. I don't think it was a knockout, but they pretty much won on points. But it's also been a really fascinating discussion, and we're going to publish, I think, all the comments as well, which were great, in time for this event in April, if we can get our act together. It's been very, very enjoyable. And it's also made me rethink a bit how to talk about the MDGs and my little 15 minutes here today. A lot of the debate was around what constitutes evidence, which epistemic community runs the show, and which is just sort of grateful for the crumbs. And I think the way the MDGs are going demonstrates why that really matters, because a lot of this can sound very abstract and very arcane, but actually when you look at the enormous, for me, waste of effort and money going into the post-2015 discussion, it shows that the key is they never asked the right question to begin with, and they started with in the wrong epistemic place. It would be my argument. I should have preceded this by saying this is not the Oxfam position on post-2015. Okay, Oxfam is right behind the post-2015 sort of, and it's great. I'm sort of allowed to go rogue occasionally, and I'm going to go rogue now. So, most of the discussion on post-2015 has been what I call "if I ruled the world." So, a range of people, businesses, politicians, NGOs in spades, have, if I ruled the world, I would do X, Y, Z, and the world would be a better place, which is a fascinating conversation, and you know, it's great. But it's also weirdly sort of self-indulgent, and the low point for me was having to facilitate 200 NGOs in a consultation with the high-level panel and try to get them 15 seconds each, because that was all the time there was. And in that 15 seconds, I think we managed to get about 80 NGOs, and each asked for something different in the post-2015 settlement. It was a Christmas tree. It was decorating the Christmas tree with your issue, and you know, they kept asking for assurances from the high-level panel that this would be at the centre of post-2015. And in the end, Abhijit Banerjee from the panel said, the only thing I can assure you of is our failure. Yeah, there is no way we could actually have a sensible post-2015 proposal which included all those things. So my answer is that why are you starting from here? Why are you starting with "if I ruled the world"? Why are you starting with these are the MDGs, what can we add or subtract? The MDGs were primarily about disciplining and improving the quality of aid. Okay? Now they're actually the aid development goals, in some ways. And they've done, I think, quite well on that. They've focused, whether you disagree or agree, they've changed the focus of aid. They've changed, I think, the nature of measurement and the help with the focus on outcomes. I think they've had quite a good disciplinary impact on aid. But all other attribution to the MDGs is extremely dodgy. You know, NGOs stand up on television and say, infant mortality is halved, therefore the MDGs have been successful. Help. Okay, the actual attribution that the MDGs have changed a significant amount of behaviour at national level by governments is, I think, remarkably weak, given the investment in trying to find such evidence. You know, claiming that China has, done a fantastic job on poverty because of the MDGs, you begin to see just how, in what sort of weird Alice in Wonderland world the MDG community has ended up in. The other point is, aid is falling. Now, it's probably falling in absolute terms. It tends to after financial crises, historically. But even more important, it's falling as a percentage of government revenue as government after government starts getting its tax house in order and starts getting better resources from oil and gas and minerals. So aid is becoming a less effective lever in terms of influencing national behaviour. So I think the real question is, how does any post-2015 instrument influence national government policy making? Okay, that would be the question I would start with. That's where I would have started if I ruled the world. That's where I would have started the post-2015 process. And weirdly, when I tried to find who had asked this question and what the answers were, as far as I can work out, no one has actually asked this question in relation to the post-2015 discussion, which is extraordinary. Lots of people have gone and said, hello, I'm from MDG International. Do you think the MDGs have been effective? But that's really not the same thing as saying, which of all this massive number of international instruments actually changes how you do business? So it seems to me that we're operating in a bit of an evidential vacuum here. So if the keyword is traction on national governments, how do you achieve such traction? I've seen stuff which is widely ridiculed, like international conventions, actually change national behaviours. Something like the Convention on the Rights of the Child has a kind of steady osmosis through ratification, change of domestic legislation, start to influence national policy making and encourage child rights groups to then get involved and start shifting behaviours, attitudes, policies. So that's one way. The Convention to End Discrimination Against Women and has also very tangibly influenced over a long period of time norms and behaviours at national level. Another one is a direct influence on national decision making, actually getting the ministers or the senior civil servants to do something different or better, or is another obvious way for an international instrument to affect national policy making. And the third one is to increase leverage of non-government actors, civil society, private sector, media, intellectuals, academia, the public conversation, election campaigns. A well-timed global initiative can influence those big public conversations and change outcomes. So these are all important ways of generating traction. And different international instruments affect it in different ways. As I say, I think big global norms are actually underrated. I mean, there was a fascinating study recently called Time to Listen, where people actually went to listen to 6,000 people who had been involved in receiving aid. And they talked to them about what it was like and what they thought of the aid business. And they didn't think a whole lot of the aid business, but one thing which had really shifted and people were very grateful to the aid business for was the focus on gender and women's rights. And they said this stands out from all the other complaints and doubts and questions as an area where people said international leadership has made our lives better because it's had an impact on gender and women's rights. So these shifts in global norms, I think, are genuine. International law often backs up those shifts in gender norms. This is current MDG country, goals and targets set either globally or regionally. The African Union has lots and lots of targets, and the MDGs constitute a lot of goals and targets. I'm doubtful about how much traction those get. I think the regional ones get more than the global ones often. The one I think that's neglected is league tables. If you're in India and there's a league table published and Bangladesh has beaten India again on social indicators, you can guarantee there's going to be plenty of press coverage and a big row and lots of questions to policymakers. But the MDGs doesn't do this. The MDGs don't say you're doing better than them and you're doing better than them. It doesn't provide that kind of shame and political oomph that you could get with a different instrument. And then the other one, which I think Jan van der Mortel, one of the architects of the MDGs, says in his view, the biggest impact of the MDGs has actually been on the quality of data. And maybe we should just be focusing on data transparency as a kind of enabler for whatever else happens at national and regional level. And I think this could be one of the good things that come out of the post-2015 process to keep the push on the quality and transparency of data. Okay, some final thoughts. I think the post-2015 debate is badly off track. It's become a situation where there is a circus, a highly mobile circus, moving from country to country, discussing the Christmas tree. And I do not see that that's going to make the government of India do anything differently about its 400 million poor people. I hope I'm wrong, but that's the question that they should be asking. And I fear it shows, there's been lots of references here to we've got to walk the walk, talking the talk is easy. For me, this demonstrates that we're not walking the walk. Some experts dominate the debate. The MDG measurers, this has been led by the United Nations, which is, I think, found the MDGs a very useful instrument to improve its own impact and to improve the quality of the aid it works on. I don't think I've never seen a political scientist in a post-MDG debate arguing about things like national traction and what influences national political behaviour. So I think there is a big disciplinary bias on, and this comes back to the discussion on the blog. What constitutes evidence? What kind of questions are we asking? And I don't think we've asked anywhere near the right questions. Complete blind spot on politics and power. Everybody says, yes, we must talk about politics and power. Now let's get back to the MDGs. Yeah, and that's the sort of standard. Certain subjects, when raised in large groups like this, get nodded at and then spat out. And I think politics and power is definitely one of them. And I fear it is probably too late. I wrote, if you want to see more about this, there's a big paper moaning on about the lack of politics and the wrong question, all the rest of it. And people said, yeah, great, lots of downloads, no impact at all. I think it's too late, actually, to influence in this way. That's so fundamentally what this discussion is about. And it won't be a complete waste of time. To end on what passes for an upbeat note, the level of public interest is great. There is a huge amount of debate about the kind of world we want, and I think that is all very healthy. It's just not actually going to achieve the thing that it pretends to be wanting to achieve in any time soon. I think also there are a number of countries who remain dependent on aid, and the quality of aid can always be improved. And I'm sure that the post-MDG settlement will help with that process. But I think it's asking the wrong question. Thank you very much.